The kitchen smelled like burnt milk. The floor was wet, and the pot had tipped over. Armand stood frozen in the doorway. His school bag slipped from his hand and hit the ground with a thud. But all he could see was his mother curled up on the floor. "Not moving, Ma," he whispered. No answer. He ran to her and shook her gently. "Ma, wake up. Please, wake up." Her breathing was slow. Her skin felt cold. The panic in his chest grew louder than the traffic outside. He grabbed the Oldsmobile from the table and called the only number he knew, his father's. But the phone rang and rang. No one answered. 10 minutes later, he was knocking on the neighbor's door. They rushed over. An old man helped carry her to the small clinic down the street. The doctor checked her, nodded slowly, and said something Armand didn't understand. She fainted due to weakness. The doctor said she needs rest and proper food, vitamins, if possible. A full checkup at a bigger hospital. Armand stared at him. "Is she sick?" The doctor looked at the cracked walls, then back at Armand. "Son, how long has she been skipping meals?" Armand's voice broke. "I don't know. She always gave me her share." That night, Armand sat beside her on the clinic bench. She was sleeping. Her face looked tired, thinner than usual. He remembered how she used to sing while making Rhodey laugh when he made jokes. Hug him every morning. He looked at her hand, holding it gently. "I promise." "Ma," he whispered, "one day I'll earn so much money. You'll never have to skip food again. I'll fix everything." But life had other plans. The next morning, their landlord came with 2 men. He threw their clothes out, shouting that they hadn't paid rent in 2 months. Armand's mother, still weak, couldn't even argue. She just held his arm and walked away silently. No one offered help. No one opened their doors. They sat under a bus stop roof that night, using a thin shawl as a blanket. Armand didn't cry. He just watched her sleep with her head on his shoulder and wondered what to do next. That's when he saw the man. He was standing across the street, staring directly at them. A long coat, a beanie, and something cold in his eyes. He didn't move, just stared. Armand quickly looked away. When he glanced back, the man was gone. The next day, Armand skipped school. He didn't have books anymore, anyway. He walked to the fruit shop, asked for work. The owner shook his head. He went to a tea stall. The man laughed and told him to come back when he was older. But by afternoon, that same man in the coat appeared again. "You looking for work?" he asked. Armand stepped back. "Who are you?" "Someone who knows what it's like to be desperate." The man said, "You want to earn money for your mother, right?" Armand didn't answer. His throat felt dry. "I can pay you 5,000 for one delivery," the man said, pulling out a thick envelope. "1 hour of your time. You don't even need to ask questions." Armand looked at the envelope. It looked heavy. "Why me?" he asked. "Because people ignore you and you need money. That makes you perfect." Armand thought of his mother, of the doctor's words, of the hunger she hid behind fake smiles. He took the envelope. The man smiled, patting his back. "That's my boy." Later that evening, he bought fruits, bread, and a packet of medicine. His mother smiled weakly as she saw him. "Where did you get this?" "Part-time job," he lied, "cleaning in a godown." She tried to scold him gently, but she was too tired. She only whispered, "You're too young, beta." "I'm old enough," he said. They ate together for the first time in 2 days. She touched his head lovingly. That night, under the same bus stop roof, Armand didn't sleep. He held the leftover money in his hand and stared at the dark street dot, and then he saw him again. The man, standing in the shadows, watching, not smiling, just staring. Armand stood up, heart racing. "What do you want now?" The man stepped closer. "You did well. There will be more, bigger deliveries, more money. But remember, no questions." Armand looked at him for a moment. "Okay." The man handed him a black bag. "Next job, tomorrow. The same time?" Then he vanished into the dark again. Armand sat back beside his sleeping mother. She coughed lightly, turned, and held his arm like a child holding on to warmth. He looked at the stars, then at the black bag in his lap. He didn't know it yet, but that bag would change everything. Forever. Armand didn't sleep that night. He kept his eyes on the black bag the man had given him. It was small, but heavy. Inside, something metallic clinked every time he moved it. He didn't dare open it. The man's words echoed in his head. No questions. When morning came, his mother was still coughing. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Armand, where are you going?" "Just a short job." "Ma, I'll be back soon." She tried to sit up. "You don't have to do this. We can go to the shelter." Armand shook his head. "You need medicine, real food, not stale bread and old blankets." He left before she could say more. The sun had barely risen. Karachi's streets were waking up, rickshaws rumbling, shopkeepers sweeping the front of their stores, schoolboys in uniforms passing by with backpacks. Armand didn't belong to their world anymore. He reached the spot the man had told him about, a rundown bakery near the railway tracks. The shop was closed, shutters halfway down. He knocked softly. A boy no older than 17 pulled it up. "You got the bag?" Armand nodded and handed it over. The boy took it without a word, disappeared behind the counter, and came back with another envelope. "Your payment." Armand opened it. 5,000 rupees. Neat bills. Just like the man said. He stuffed it in his pocket and turned to leave. but something in his chest didn't feel right. As he walked past the corner, he heard the boy talking. On the phone, his voice was low, sharp. The kid delivered it. He doesn't ask questions. Good one. Armand walked faster. He used some of the money to buy rice, fresh vegetables, eggs, and milk. For the first time in weeks, he carried real food. When he reached the bus stop shelter, his mother sat up in surprise. Armand, where did you get all this? I told you, Ma. The warehouse pays daily. She looked worried. Is it safe? He forced a smile. Safer than sleeping hungry. That afternoon, he cooked for her. Simple rice and vegetable curry. She smiled. As she ate, tears in her eyes. I wish your father could see you now. Armand didn't reply. He didn't want to talk about his father. That evening, they returned to the same bench. But this time they were full, warm, and wrapped in 2 new blankets Armand had bought. His mother was already asleep when his phone buzzed. A message, no name, just an address, a time, in 1 line. Don't be late. The next job was in a bus terminal. A man in a gray hoodie handed him a brown packet wrapped in newspaper. Take this to the sweet shop near the cemetery. Ask for Rafiq. Armand didn't say a word. Me just nodded. He walked the 2 kilometers alone. The streets got quieter as he entered the older part of the city. The sweet shop looked abandoned. Faded paint, broken glass door, a single bulb flickering above. Inside, a man with sunken eyes looked up. You Armand? Yes. Give me the packet. Armand handed it over. The man opened it briefly, nodded, then reached behind the counter, and passed him another envelope. This one was heavier. Armand opened it halfway down the road. 10,000. His eyes widened. He clutched it tightly, looking around like someone might steal it. The money was changing things. His mother now had 3 full meals a day. She was laughing again. She told him stories from her childhood. He saw life coming back into her, but the jobs were changing too. One night, he had to drop a packet into a locked car at 2 a.m. in the middle of a quiet alley. Another time, he had to pass a phone to a man with blood on his shirt, then walk away without turning around. Still, he told himself, it's just delivery. One evening he returned home late. His mother was asleep. He placed the food on her side and quietly opened the new envelope. This time, inside the cash, was something else, a small envelope with red stains, and his name written on it. Armand's hands trembled as he opened it. Inside was a note. Next time don't be late. You're not the only one with a mother. He dropped the paper, ran outside, looked around. The street was empty. A dog barked in the distance. A car drove by. But Armand felt it. He was being watched. The money suddenly felt dirty in his hands. He went back inside, heart racing. He looked at his mother peacefully sleeping, unaware of the world her son was now part of. He sat beside her and whispered, I just wanted to help you, Ma. I didn't mean to enter this mess. The phone buzzed again. Another address. Another job. But now, it felt like a trap. He looked at the screen, then at the envelope, and for the first time, Armand was afraid. Armand sat by the roadside staring at the phone screen. The message was short. Delivery at 5 a.m. sharp. No delays, no excuses. His heart pounded. The red-stained envelope still sat in his lap. That warning, it wasn't just a message. It was a threat. He looked over at his mother, curled under the blanket, her chest rising slowly. She looked peaceful, better than she had in weeks. He thought about waking her up and running away somewhere far. But where? They had no family, no real home, only the streets, and the eyes watching from the shadows. At 4:30 a.m., he stood up, brushed the dust off his clothes, and walked toward the railway line. The city was still half asleep. Dogs roamed freely. A few people slept on sidewalks. Armand moved silently, each step heavier than the last. The address led to an old building behind a closed cinema. A man with a scar across his cheek waited by the gate. He didn't speak, just handed Armand a black envelope and nodded toward the hospital at the end of the street. Room 302. Give it to the nurse. Walk away fast. Armand froze. The hospital. That's where he had taken his mother when she collapsed. His hands shook. What's in the envelope? He asked. The man's face hardened. You asking questions now? Armand quickly shook his head. No, sir. He took the envelope and walked. Every step toward the hospital felt like he was sinking into mud. What if someone saw him? What if he got caught? What if this delivery hurt someone? He entered the hospital through the side door, as instructed. The nurse at the counter barely looked at him. For Dr. Imshiz, he said softly. She nodded and took the envelope without a word. Armand turned and walked out, heart beating in his ears. He didn't run, but he didn't walk slow either, didn't look back. When he reached home, his mother was awake, sitting on the bench, sipping tea. Her eyes lit up when she saw him. Armand, where did you go so early? He paused, wiped the sweat off his face, and smiled. Bookstore delivery. They pay extra for early hours? She touched his cheek. You work too hard. I wish I could take your pain away. His throat tightened. You already do, Ma. She handed him a cup of tea, and they sat in silence, watching the city come alive. The birds chirped, cars honked, but Armand's heart felt cold. He had lied to her for the first time. That night she made roti and lentils with her own hands. Her strength was slowly returning. She even laughed at his old school stories. Remember when you forgot your shoes on exam day? She giggled. Armand smiled. Yeah, I told the teacher I had donated them to someone poor. She laughed harder. You were always clever. But inside, he didn't feel clever. He felt like a coward. The next few days were quiet. No new jobs. No messages. Armand used the money he had to buy her new clothes, vitamins, and even a small mattress for the shelter. His mother cried when she saw it. It feels like home again, she whispered. Armand almost told her the truth then, but just as he opened his mouth, the phone buzzed. Another message. This one didn't have words, just a photo. It was his mother, sitting on the bench that very morning. And in the corner of the picture, Armand could see the coat of the man who had first offered him the job. His stomach dropped. They were watching, always. He deleted the photo before his mother could see it. That night, sleep didn't come. He lay awake, staring at the roof, thinking of ways to escape. But the truth was, he was trapped. Not in chains, but in silence. In fear. A few days later, a doctor from the hospital called. Armand? He asked. Yes, your mother's report came back. She's recovering well, but she needs long-term treatment. Maybe 3 to 6 months. Proper rest? Clean food? Less stress? Can you admit her? Armand asked quickly. The doctor sighed. It costs money, son. Armand looked at his mother, quietly folding clothes. He whispered, how much? The doctor gave him a figure. It was more than Armand had ever seen. He ended the call and sat down. His eyes burned. That evening, he stood outside the sweet shop again. The door opened before he knocked. Inside, the man with sunken eyes sat with a smile, ready for a real job now. Armand said nothing. The man pushed a small box toward him. No delivery this time. Just wait outside a building. Press a button when you see a black car arrive. What does the button do? Armand asked. The man's smile faded. No questions. Armand stared at the box. And if I don't do it? The man stood up slowly, walked over to a drawer, and pulled out a photo. It was Armand's mother, sleeping in the hospital bed. Armand's hands clenched. I'll do it. He walked out with the box in his backpack. The air felt heavier than usual, he tried to tell himself. It was just a button. Maybe a signal. Maybe something simple. But his heart told him otherwise. As he stood outside the building that night, watching for the black car, he felt the weight of every lie he had told, especially the one to the only person who ever loved him without conditions. He looked at the box. Then he looked up at the stars and whispered, Ma, forgive me. Armand stood outside the building, the small black box, heavy in his backpack. He kept staring at the road, waiting for the black car to arrive. His hands were cold, his legs shook, not from fear, but from shame. Deep inside, something told him. This job wasn't like the others. This wasn't just delivery. Minutes passed, and then the black car appeared. It moved slowly, silently, stopping right in front of the building gate. Armand could hear the voice in his head, press the button when the car arrives. Just press it. Fingers touched the button inside the box. But his eyes caught something, a little girl, holding her mother's hand, walking near the gate. She dropped her candy and ran toward the car to pick it up. Armand's heart stopped. He yanked his hand away from the box. He couldn't do it. He couldn't take the risk. What if that button meant danger? What if pressing it hurt someone? He turned and ran. He didn't stop to explain. He didn't check his phone. He didn't look back. He just ran, all the way to the hospital. His mother was resting in the ward. She smiled weakly when she saw him. You look tired, she said. I'm fine, he replied. Out of breath. She touched his hand. You're working too hard, Armand. He nodded, but his eyes were lost. His hands still shook. His mind was still at that building. With the button he didn't press. Would they come after him? Would they hurt his mother? He needed air. He stepped out of the ward, walked down the hospital hallway, and sat on the bench near the children's wing. He buried his face in his hands. Bad day. A voice. Soft light, almost like a song. He looked up. A girl, maybe 16, stood beside him. No hair, pale skin, but a wide, bright smile on her face. Sorry, she said. I just noticed you looked like you were carrying the whole world on your shoulders. Armand didn't answer. She sat beside him. I'm Zara. He nodded. Armand. You here for someone? She asked. My mother. She's sick? Cancer? She asked softly. He shook his head. No, something else. Doctors are still trying to understand it. She pointed to the band on her wrist. I'm in room 108. Blood cancer. Fighting it for 3 years now. Armand looked at her in shock. You look happy? She laughed. That's the only weapon I have. If I stop smiling, the pain wins. They sat in silence for a moment. Then she said, You're lucky, you know? You still have your mother. Armand blinked. Yeah, my dad left when he found out about my cancer. Couldn't handle it, I guess. Haven't seen him since. Armand's chest tightened. He understood that feeling too well. They talked for a while. She told him about the nurses she liked, the books she read, and the window that showed a sliver of sky from her room. She was full of life. Even while death danced so close to her, as she stood up to leave, she dropped something, a letter. He picked it up and called after her. Zara, you dropped this. but she was already turning the corner. He looked at the letter. He wasn't going to open it, but then he saw the name written on the envelope, Naveed Khan. His father's name. Armand's hands froze. Why would Zara have a letter with his father's name? He looked around. The hallway was empty. He slipped the letter into his pocket and walked back to his mother's room. She was asleep. He sat beside her, confused, restless. His father had disappeared years ago. No calls, no messages, no help. Just vanished, leaving behind bills, shame, and an empty chair at the dinner table. Now, suddenly, his name appeared in a letter carried by a girl he'd just met. He pulled out the letter, but his hand stopped before opening it. Not here, not beside his mother. He walked out into the hospital garden and sat under a tree. Slowly, he opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. It wasn't long. To Zara, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I left when you needed me most, but I've been helping from afar. I donate every month to the hospital, not because I'm kind, but because I'm ashamed. Maybe one day, you'll understand. Maybe one day, we'll meet again. Naveed Khan. Armand read it again. Donating to the hospital. Helping from afar. Could it be true? Could his father really be helping in secret? Or was this someone else? He needed answers, and there was only one person who could give them. Zara. He rushed back inside, but when he reached the children's wing, a nurse stopped him. Sorry, visiting hours are over. I need to speak to Zara. Room 108. It's urgent. The nurse looked concerned. She had a rough evening. Please come back tomorrow. Armand stepped back, frustrated. His head spun too many questions. Too little time. He looked at the letter again, and in his heart, a strange fire lit up. If his father was really out there helping Zara, then maybe, just maybe, he hadn't truly abandoned them. Or maybe, he had built a new life, with another child. Armand didn't sleep that night. He sat by the hospital window, holding the letter tight in his fist. The name Naveed Khan echoed in his head again and again. His father's name, the same man who had left them when they needed him most. And now, helping another girl. Was it a mistake? A different Naveed? But the way Zara spoke, the sadness in her voice when she mentioned her father, it matched what Armand had felt for years. By morning, he made up his mind. He had to find him. He didn't tell his mother anything. She was feeling better and had started reading again. Her smile had returned, and he didn't want to break it. Not yet. He walked to the nurse station and asked about Zara. She's resting, the nurse said. Better than yesterday. Armand nodded. I need to speak to her. It's personal. The nurse hesitated, then finally said, she left a number for emergencies. Here. Armand took the slip and walked out of the hospital. His fingers shook as he dialed. Zara answered on the second ring. Hello, it's me, Armand. Oh, you okay? I read the letter you dropped. There was silence. Then she said softly, you opened it. I didn't mean to. I saw the name. Naveed Khan. That's my father's name. Another silence. Then, quietly, I didn't know. Armand sat on the steps outside. Zara is your dad. She took a long breath. He used to be. I haven't seen him since I was 10, but I found out later he was sending money to this hospital. The staff told me. So I wrote that letter, just in case. In case what? In case he ever came back? In case someone could give it to him. Armand looked at the street in front of him, eyes blank. He left me and my mother too. We thought he was dead, or worse. But now I find out he was helping someone else's daughter, not even knowing if his own wife was alive. Zara's voice softened. Maybe he couldn't face the past. Armand clenched his jaw. He ran away. That's all I know. After a pause, Zara said, I can give you the account number, the one the hospital gets money from. Maybe you can. Trace him, please, Armand said, his voice shaking. She sent it. Armand didn't waste time. He went to a nearby cyber cafe. The man at the desk charged him 50 rupees to trace the bank account. It took an hour, but finally they had a name, a branch, and an address. It was only 5 kilometers away. Without thinking, Armand ran. He didn't take a rickshaw. He didn't stop for water. His legs moved like they had waited years for this. His heart was a storm of fire and confusion. He reached a small printing shop in a quiet market. The board above said Khan. He stepped inside. A middle-aged man sat behind the counter, counting bills. Armand froze. It was him. Older, gray hair, tired eyes, but the face he remembered from his childhood. Can I help you? The man asked. Armand stepped closer. I don't remember me. The man looked up sharply. Armand and pulled out the letter. Zara wrote this. I found it, and your name. The man's face went pale. Armand, he whispered, I'm your son. Silence. Then slowly, the man stood up. You've grown. Armand laughed bitterly. So have my questions. His father looked down. I didn't know you were alive, or your mother. I thought you both left the city. We didn't. We were thrown out. We lived on the streets. We begged. She fainted from hunger. And you were here printing wedding cards. I made mistakes, Armand. I was scared. Scared. Armand's voice rose. You ran away from your sick wife and your 13-year-old son. I thought she'd be better off without me. Then why help Zara? Why her, not us? His father leaned against the counter, eyes filled with tears. Because when I found out she was sick, I saw what I had done wrong. I couldn't fix my past, but I tried to be useful from afar. Armand's fists clenched. Useful. Do you know my mother still prays for you? She still believes you'll come back someday. I wanted to. I came to the hospital twice, but I couldn't face her. Armand stepped back. Coward. His father didn't argue, just nodded slowly. Then he said, "Let me come see her now, please." "No," Armand said firmly. "You lost that right years ago." His father looked broken. Armand turned and walked out. The sun was too bright. His head was spinning. He walked for a long time, not knowing where he was going. When he finally reached the hospital, he went straight to Zara's room. She smiled when she saw him. "You found him, didn't you?" He nodded. "I did. He remembered me, and I told him to stay away." Zara's smile faded. "Do you feel better now?" Armand sat down beside her. "I don't know." They sat in silence. Then she said maybe he wasn't a good father, but he didn't stop being a person. He tried. Armand. That has to mean something. He looked at her. "You still want him to be in your life?" "I don't know," she whispered, "but I want to. Forgive, because the anger hurts me more than him." Armand didn't reply, but that night, when he saw his mother smiling in her sleep, he quietly reached into his bag, pulled out the photo of his father, and placed it under her pillow. She didn't wake up, but her fingers gently held the photo. In her sleep, the morning sun filtered through the hospital window, painting gold on Armand's mother's face. She looked peaceful, her hand still holding the old photo under her pillow. Armand sat beside her, quiet, his thoughts heavy. He hadn't slept. His legs ached from running. His mind ached from everything else. His father was alive. He had money. He helped another girl, but never came back for them. Armand looked at his mother. She deserved better. She deserved a husband who stayed, a son who didn't lie, a life that wasn't full of hunger, sickness, and fear. His phone buzzed. A message. Final job. Double pay. No delays. 5 p.m. Come alone. Armand stared at it. He remembered the black box. He remembered the girl near the car. He remembered how close he had come to hurting someone. And now, they wanted him again. He stood up and walked out of the ward. At the front desk, he asked to see the doctor. 15 minutes later, he sat across from Dr. Rahim, a kind-faced man in glasses. "She's improving," the doctor said, "but she needs rest, clean food, and long-term care." Armand took a breath. "Can you admit her here full-time?" The doctor hesitated. "It's expensive, Armand. I'll pay. I have money." "How much?" Armand showed him the envelope from his last job. "This much, and maybe more if I keep working." The doctor sighed. "Money helps, son, but it's not everything. She also needs emotional stability. No stress, no fear." Armand felt like someone had punched his chest. No stress, no fear, and here he was, dragging death behind him like a shadow. He nodded and stood up. "Thank you, doctor." He walked outside, slowly. Each step felt heavy. His legs wanted to move toward that 5 p.m. job. His hands wanted more cash, but his heart wanted to be clean again. He sat on the hospital bench, called the number from the message. The voice on the other side was cold. "Yes, I'm done," Armand said. "I quit." A pause. "You don't quit us." "I just did. Think about your mother." "I am." He hung up. His hands shook, but inside, something felt lighter. He walked back inside, went to his mother, and gave her the news. "I'm not working anymore," he said softly. "Not that kind of work." She smiled and touched his face. "I don't care about the money, Beta. I just want my son back." That evening, he cooked for her at the shelter's small kitchen. Lentils and rice, just the way she liked. He added extra butter. She laughed when he spilled salt. "Still terrible at cooking," she teased. "Getting better," he replied. But as they ate, something changed. The air, a coldness crawled in. A rickshaw stopped across the road. 3 men stepped out. One of them wore a long coat, the man who had first offered him the job. He walked slowly toward the shelter. A man stood up. His heart raced. "Stay inside," he whispered to his mother. The man stopped just a few feet away. His voice was calm. "I warned you. I'm not doing your work anymore. You owe us. I paid with blood, fear, and silence. It's enough." The man smiled darkly. "You think this is a movie, boy, that you can walk away in life? Gives you peace. I'm not afraid anymore." The man nodded toward the shelter. "But she might be." Armand stepped in front of him. "You touch her, and I'll scream this whole street down." The man didn't move. Then a voice came from behind. "What's going on here?" It was the shelter caretaker. An old man, sharp-eyed. "Nothing," Armand said. "These men were just leaving." The caretaker didn't blink. "Then let them leave." The man with the coat smiled once more. "This isn't over." He turned around, walked back to the rickshaw, and left. Armand stood still for a long time. His legs shook, but he didn't fall. That night, he told everything to his mother. Every lie, every job, every fear. She listened without a word. When he finished, he looked down. "I'm sorry, Ma. I just wanted to save you." She held his face in her hands. "You already have," she whispered. They cried together. And in that moment, the weight Armand had carried for so long melted. The next day, something unexpected happened. The shelter caretaker showed Armand a video. You're brave, he said. What's this? He played the video. It was a recording from the security camera outside the shelter. It showed Armand standing up to the gang. The caretaker smiled. I shared it online. The world needs to see what real courage looks like. Within hours, it spread. Thousands of views. People sharing, commenting, asking how to help. A journalist contacted them, then a local charity. Within 2 days, enough donations arrived to pay for his mother's treatment. Armand stood outside the hospital, stunned. A stranger patted his back. Your story gave us hope, son. But Armand only thought of one thing. He hadn't saved his mother with money. He saved her with truth and love. But just as he began to breathe easy, his phone buzzed. Again. This time, it wasn't a message, it was a photo. Zara. Armand stared at the photo on his phone, his hands trembling. Zara pale, weak, her eyes shut tight, wires and tubes running across her small body like ropes. The message below it burned into his heart. She needs you. Come now. He didn't know who had sent it. He didn't know what had happened to her, but he knew one thing. He had to go. Without a word, he left the hospital room where his mother was resting peacefully. She had finally smiled last night, truly smiled. After months, maybe years, he wanted to protect that peace. So he didn't wake her. He kissed her forehead softly and whispered, I'll be back, Ma, I promise. He took the first bus out of town, the same one that had taken him away from Zara all those weeks ago. His memories twisted and turned with every mile. How she had trusted him, how she had cried when she found out he lied, how she had called him a coward. And now, she was the one lying helpless. And he wasn't going to run this time. By evening, he reached the small city hospital. He ran past the front desk, up 2 flights of stairs, his breath fast, his hands cold. And then, he saw her. Room 208. Through the glass window. He saw her mother sitting beside the bed, wiping Zara's forehead, crying silently. Armand walked in. The woman looked up, her eyes widened in shock, then pain, then anger. She whispered. I'm sorry, he said, his voice shaking. I didn't come to hurt her, I came to help. She stood up, her hands clenched. She cried for days. After you left, she thought you died, or worse. I didn't know how to face her. You should have tried. He didn't argue. She was right. Then she looked back at her daughter. The doctors say it's a rare infection. Stress, no rest. Her heart, it's weak. Armand moved slowly to the bed. Zara looked smaller than before. Her lips were dry. Her hands were cold. He gently placed his hand over hers. I'm here, Zara, he whispered, and for a moment he thought she heard her. Eyelids moved slightly. A small breath escaped her lips. That night, he didn't leave her side. He sat in silence, holding her hand, telling her every truth he had once buried, every wrong he had done, and how he had changed. He told her about the shelter, about his mother's smile, about the video that went viral. He told her he wasn't ashamed anymore. He told her he loved her, even if she never forgave him. Morning came with a soft light and a stronger breeze. Zara moved, her lips parted, her voice was dry and soft. You're here. Armand's heart jumped. Yes, he said, tears falling. I'm here. She looked at him, weak but alive. Why? Because I love you. Because I was a fool. Because I can't lose you. Her eyes filled. I thought, I meant nothing to you. You meant everything. I was just too scared to accept it. She looked away. I don't know if I can trust you. I don't deserve your trust, but I'll earn it, every day. Silence. Then she whispered. Then start by staying. He nodded. I will. The next few days were slow but hopeful. Zara got stronger. Her voice returned. Her smile returned. Her mother forgave him slowly, carefully. And one day, while sitting outside on a bench, Zara looked at Armand and said, You helped so many people, by being honest. Why don't you keep doing that? He looked at her confused. How you're dated, story helped others. What if you shared more? What if you showed others how love heals? Armand thought about it, then remembered all the people who had sent messages online. All those who said they were inspired by his courage. What if his pain could light someone else's dark path? He started writing, then recording, different little videos, simple stories. His life, his mother, his past, Zara. He called the series, Love, Not Money. Within weeks, the videos started spreading. He wasn't rich. He wasn't perfect, but he was real. People saw his tears, his mistakes, his journey, and they listened. One day, a big platform reached out. They wanted to feature his story, but something happened just before the interview. A letter arrived, no name, no address. Just a message. You think this is over? We're watching. Armand stared at it. His hands went cold again. He thought he was free. He thought the past had let him go, but darkness had a long memory. He hid the letter from Zara. He smiled like nothing was wrong, but at night, he sat outside the hospital and watched the road carefully, because he knew the storm wasn't over. It was just starting again. Armand didn't sleep that night. He sat under the dim hospital streetlight, the letter in his hand. The words haunted him. You think this is over? We're watching. The past had followed him here, into his new life, into Zara's healing, into his mother's peace. He thought of telling someone, the police, Zara, but he didn't want fear to win. Not again. Next morning he smiled for the cameras. A local media channel had come to interview him. His series Love, Not Money was spreading fast across the country. People were talking, commenting, sharing their own stories of loss and healing. Armand sat beside Zara, holding her hand as the camera rolled. She was still weak, but her spirit was strong again. Her cheeks had color. Her smile had light. The interviewer asked, "What changed your life?" Armand looked at Zara, then at the camera. "Love," he said quietly, "not fame, not wealth. Love healed my mother when medicine didn't. Love brought me back when I was lost. And love gave me a second chance when I didn't deserve one." People clapped in the hospital lobby. Nurses stopped to listen. Even strangers who didn't know Armand felt like they did. The clip went viral. Millions saw it. Some called him a miracle. Some called him a fraud. And some remembered him from the days he wanted to forget. One of them acted. That night, when Armand left the hospital to get tea, a man stood near his bike, face hidden, hands in his pocket. "You shouldn't have spoken," the man said. Armand froze. The voice was familiar. It belonged to MTS, a name he hadn't heard in months. He was once Armand's friend, then a gang leader, the same one who gave him illegal jobs when he was desperate, the same one Armand ran away from when his mother collapsed. "Don't do that anymore," Armand said quietly. MTS stepped forward. "But you told the world about the things we did. You think you're a hero now? I never used your name. I shared my pain to help others." "Pain?" MTS laughed. "You don't know pain yet." Armand's hands clenched. "If you touch my mother or Zara, I swear, you'll do what?" MTS mocked. "Call the police. Go live again. I'll protect them, whatever it takes." For a long second, they stood still. Then a voice broke the silence. "I already did," said Zara. She had followed him. She stood just a few feet behind, breathless, one hand on her chest. But her eyes were firm. "You don't scare him anymore," she said to MTS. "You don't control his life. Or mine." MTS looked between them, then smiled coldly. "This isn't over." He walked away. Armand rushed to Zara. "You shouldn't be out here." She smiled weakly. "You think I'd let you face him alone?" They laughed. Even in fear, they found light. That night, Armand filed a report with the police, then shared a video. "Honest, brave, vulnerable. I was once lost," he said. "But love pulled me back. And I won't hide anymore. If telling the truth helps even one person, I'll keep doing it." His words shook the internet. More people came forward. Old victims of the same gang? The police took action. Arrests were made. But in all this noise, something unexpected happened. A rich businessman, whose daughter had suffered from emotional trauma, watched Armand's videos. He reached out privately. "You reminded me of my daughter," he wrote. "I have resources. I want to help you build something." Armand hesitated. He didn't want money, but he wanted impact. So he agreed, but with a condition. No flashy names, no photos. "We'll call it the Healing House." A few months later, it opened a small place in the city for tired hearts, for broken souls, for anyone who needed love more than medicine. Armand ran it with Zara. His mother visited often, smiling at the walls painted with soft colors and hope-filled quotes. And one afternoon, as they sat under the sun, Zara looked at him and whispered, "You did it." He shook his head. "No, we did it. You, me, Ma, and the love that held us when nothing else could." He kissed her hand. She smiled. "What about fear?" "I still feel it," he admitted. "But now, love stands taller." And, with that, the boy who once had nothing gave the world something priceless, hope, because money couldn't heal his mother.